I really didn't know till I pulled up on stream type shit.
The coronavirus. It's spread beyond China.
We have confirmed the first case of Wuhan novel coronavirus patient in Singapore.
Coronavirus
across Asia, in the US, and today in France. It's not been designated a pandemic, and it's uncertain whether it has the potential to become one. Yet health experts stress that the scale of the pandemic threat is potentially catastrophic.
It has not
They all got the damn mask on.
a global health emergency. It may yet become one.
A new strain of disease develops. Few, if any, people have immunity. Airborne human-to-human infection.
Bro, she got that down.
Through a
She got that down.
Globalized travel and urban living.
Sub-Zero mask on. They ain't playing no games.
So how well prepared is the world to cope with a pandemic?
These is human made.
Epidemics such as
This is human made, bro. I swear, dude.
Standard procedures, which include identification and isolation of those who are infected and sick. The second is to trace all of their contacts. And then the third is to make sure that other means of control can be employed. And sometimes that includes requiring people not to travel or asking them to postpone travel.
This is the latest invention in the fight against SARS.
Scares over SARS in 2003, bird flu in 2006, and swine flu in 2009, and also Ebola and Zika in recent years.
I remember Ebola.
Policymakers' minds on the need for pandemic preparation.
How's this spreading? Can they tell us something?
The World Health Organization has established a global influenza surveillance network covering 105 countries as a planetary alert mechanism. But it's one thing knowing what the right procedures are. It's another thing ensuring that they are carried out. Last year, a group called the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, convened by the WHO and the World Bank, warned of major gaps in our pandemic preparedness.
How I know if I got the virus?
A lack of long-term, holistic, costed resource mobilization plans. It said that not a single country's preparedness plan had been fully funded.
What is he talking about? Somebody translate this shit.
Itself was underfunded, hindering.
I don't know what the hell he talking about.
A global safety net.
The global.
There's clearly a gap in funding, and the funding for developing capacity.
Do I got the coronavirus?
And respond to our.
I don't want the damn coronavirus. I just had a corona not too long ago.
Nor is there complementary funding coming in.
Is it through the beer? Is it through the brew, bro?
The World Health Organization is always underfunded. Their budget is very little compared to the responsibilities that they have.
Some experts stress that when it comes to protecting ourselves from pandemics, there's a danger in placing all our focus
What the hell is they scanning?
Emergency responses.
You also need in the long
It's some iRobot-ish, bro. They scanning their foreheads for barcodes and shit.
Healthcare systems at the national level everywhere, but obviously particularly in countries that don't have strong healthcare systems at the moment.
Man.
So for an international response to be able to effectively support in a crisis situation, you need people on the ground who are well trained to support this response, to know what to do in an emergency situation. But you also need.
Bro, I'm calling in the sick. I'm calling in sick to work.
The local health system.
Hey, I'm sorry, I got the coronavirus.
To crisis communication.
Baby, I can't make it.
Seek help.
I had some. I was sipping on Corona last night. I can't make it. Y'all should still pay me though. You know what I'm saying?
For a pandemic, to answer confidently in the affirmative.
It ain't my fault. It's a pandemic.
The hyper-connected world of ours become considerably more equal in terms of access to decent, basic health care.
Dr. Tom Inglesby is the director of the Centre for Health Security of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. He's an expert in how viruses spread. And Sarah Gilbert is Professor of Vaccinology at Oxford University. And Dr. Inglesby, if we start with you, I understand that you and your team conducted a simulation of a global
I ain't learned shit this whole time.
Coronavirus, and came up with a figure that it could kill 65 million people. I wondered how you reached that figure.
65 million. It could kill up to 65 million. You don't just throw that number around, motherfucker. So tell me what you mean.
Yes, a few months ago, we put on an exercise in New York City that used a fictional coronavirus and watched it spread over a period of 18 months. And the exercise took place early on in the pandemic.
Son of a bitch. Oh, what's that Will Smith movie with the zombies? That's how we about to be. Oh, dog. Let me know in the comments below. What's that Will Smith movie called? Because I don't remember off top. But yo, we're done. We're done. 65 million. Oh, shit. How many people in the world? 8 billion. 65 million is still that's a chunk, all right?
So much earlier than what we might fear later.
This nigga nervous.
And we basically studied past coronavirus
I don't
outbreaks,
believe
other
you.
pandemics, to try and understand that and try and understand what might happen if a pandemic really played out at a global scale.
I mean, it's interesting because, of course, in reality, we haven't seen anything like that, nothing on that scale, 65 million deaths. I mean, it's hugely high. We do get warnings of these pandemics every few years, but we haven't seen that kind of numbers. Is that down to luck? Are our systems working? Or are the models wrong?
Are the models wrong?
No, well, I think if you go back in time, we did see back in 1918, in the last big pandemic influenza, we saw somewhere between 50 and 100 million deaths. Things have gotten a lot better since that time. We have much more modern.
This shit just remind me of like a movie for real. Like this can't be life. Is it? Is this real? Is this happening right now? This shit's crazy. I don't know how to feel. He looked like the evil character that's setting this shit up just to take it over. You know what I mean? There's going to be 65 million deaths. So when everybody has these masks on, every mask you buy is going to poison you slowly because of this evil motherfucker right here. Am I right or wrong? Am I tripping? Y'all let me know. Y'all let me know. Am I tripping? Don't he look like the character off a damn Iron Man Marvel movie and he's going to switch and be evil laughing like, I got you. Because we're going to go buy all them damn face masks and shit. And the whole time, the face mask had the particles to infect you. Think about that. And then you buy the pills and the pills just make you sicker. You feel me? That's how I'm feeling.
But we're also much more connected and in some ways more vulnerable. So I think we see a lot of trends that worry us, like the globalization, the movement of people around the world, living closer with animals, antibiotic resistance, mega cities. So there are a lot of trends that worry us. We hopefully will never see a day when we have the kind of pandemic we saw in our exercise. But the reason we held that exercise is because we think it's scientifically feasible that something like that could emerge, and we need to prepare for it as a global community.
How do we prepare?
We hear about vaccines taking a long time and always being sort of lagging behind whatever it is that they're trying to vaccinate against. I mean, are things changing? Is the technology coming down the way that will mean that's different this time and in future?
Yes, things are changing, but it's definitely still a work in progress. So in the past, vaccines were often developed from the disease-causing organisms themselves, and they had to be isolated and then adapted and then tested, and vaccine development would take a long time. Now what we're looking at is new ways of making vaccines, using technology that we can adapt for each individual situation to make a vaccine against a different disease. And because we've used the technology before and we know a lot about it, it enables us to go faster in the vaccine production and the testing and eventually the implementation as well. But it's still not going to be immediate. It's still going to take us several months before we have a vaccine that's ready to go into the first clinical trials. And after that, we have to test if the vaccine not only induces a strong immune response against the pathogen, but if it's actually strong enough to protect. And that testing will take longer, and then production of enough doses of vaccine to vaccinate enough people to control the outbreak will take longer again. So we're probably still, in the best case scenario, looking at about a year before we've got enough doses to make a real impact.
And that's what I was going to ask. I mean, do we have the means to manufacture a vaccine on a pandemic scale?
Well, it depends how many doses we're going to need. If the contact tracing and quarantine and the public health measures are very effective at bringing the outbreak under control, that can dramatically reduce the number of cases. And that's how Ebola outbreaks have been dealt with up until now, when we didn't have a vaccine. But then towards the end of the outbreak, what would tend to happen is that small clusters of cases will keep arising. And if we have a vaccine available at that time, that's very useful for controlling the cases at the end of the outbreak. And it doesn't take very many thousands of doses to achieve that. On the other hand, if we're going to need to vaccinate hundreds, thousands, millions of people, we don't have manufacturing facilities in the UK, certainly, that we can use to make that number of doses. We would need to collaborate internationally to achieve that scale of manufacture.
Dr. Inglesby, in the situation we are in right now, in the situation that China finds itself in, what do you think is the best public health approach? Is it share the message quickly and risk panic? Or is it deal with it in
y'all nervous about this?
Low-key way, but risks?
Let me know in the comments, y'all, how y'all feel about this. I remember when Ebola happened, I was like, yo, what? It was like people like in Texas, like near where I stay at, like with Ebola, like it's a full damn outbreak. And I still was like, man, if it happened, like I ain't gonna trip, but if I catch that hoe, that's crazy. This shit, I'm just now finding out about this one. This sound like, he said, what'd he say? 95 million? 95 million, bruh? Let me know, what's y'all overall, what y'all thinking? Y'all think it's gonna go down? Y'all think they're gonna stop it? What y'all think, man? Like I said, I'm new to this. Don't know a lot about this. This is my first, any information I've ever seen about this, so.
Yeah, I think in all cases, the public should be getting all the information that the government has. I think once the public senses that information is being held back, that's when people start losing confidence in a response, confidence in the government that they need to trust to get through this. So I think we need to really give as much information out as possible to the public and to international partners who are also planning their own efforts to try and prevent disease spread in different countries. So I think we should share information. We should work very hard to identify cases with diagnostic testing, isolate people who are sick. I'm worried about larger scale quarantine efforts. Quarantining large cities like this have not happened before in modern times. So I'm worried that's going to get in the way of doing other things that we need to do.
Why don't you speak on it? You got the platform. You the one that made this damn figure. Why don't he speak on the way to fix it? This is your chance to speak on it. You know what I mean? Unless the government, he worried about the government trying to step in. You know what I'm saying? But like, speak on it. What if you had control of this with your experiment of 65 milli, then what would you do to stop it? You know what I mean? He said to quarantine it, but what else needs to be done? We need to tape off some shit. What we need to do? You know what I'm saying? You could stop this, speak on it, but it's easier said than done. I don't know. Government crazy. You know, this could be a money thing. You feel me?
Like what? What other things need doing?
I'm just paranoid at the end of the day.
Like finding the patients, getting them to volunteer and come in for testing, and getting them to be isolated in their own homes, or if they're sick enough, isolated in hospital, getting medical care for people who are sick, bringing healthcare workers to the places where people are sick. All that requires movement of people, movement of goods, movement of hospital supplies, and big quarantines can interrupt the movement of those things and also make people afraid.
And Professor Gilbert, I mean, in the UK, there's a lot of unfounded skepticism about vaccines, and I wonder whether that impedes on the work people like you are doing.
I don't think so, really. Once people see a need for a vaccine, once they see a disease that is causing illness and causing deaths, most people are really very interested in receiving the vaccine.
And clinical trials
that's
take
the
a long
money.
time, and
The
the
vaccine
end process is human testing. Does that process fit in with these new viruses?
It's difficult to do clinical trials when an outbreak's actually happening, but what we do need to do, first of all, is test the vaccines to see if we're getting a good immune response to the vaccine, how many doses of the vaccine we need to give, and the technology that we're working with in Oxford and with our spin-out company, Vaccitech, works very well after a single dose of vaccine, which is important in an outbreak. We then have to try and judge whether we think that would protect people against infection, and then design trials that will actually test if the vaccine is working. We don't want to just go and vaccinate large numbers of people with a vaccine when we don't know if it actually works or not. So designing the trials to get that information while the outbreak's happening is very difficult to do.
Professor Gilbert, Dr. Inglesby, thank you so much for joining us.
How do y'all feel about this? Before I log off this video, like, there's a lot that's going through my head right now. Like, This shit is crazy. And I like I said, I really avoid the news most of the time. So like I'm seeing this right now. I'm just like, yo, he said 65 million. That's a lot of people. So these people, it's gonna be a lot of sick people. You telling me we gotta isolate these people so they can't work, right? You gotta figure out how you can isolate them to study the virus, but we don't have enough resources to compensate them for missing work, right? So a lot of these people that are sick are probably adults. They probably the head of the household, and they can't go get the money for the fam to feed the fam, right? But they sick, but they don't know how sick because you don't know if it's the coronavirus, a flu. But you know, a lot of people just work through that because they don't have no choice. So what can we do? We in so much debt I mean, this is a world thing, and this is a big deal. But it just got me thinking, like, I don't know what the solution is. I don't trust the news in the first place, but this shit is really happening. So y'all let me know, what's y'all temperature on this? What y'all thinking? Y'all nervous, or like y'all more like, if it happens, it happens? I don't know, y'all. I don't know, man. I'm a little confused. I'm like, shit crazy. Seeing all them people masked up like that just kind of tripped me out. Like there was like different levels of masks you can have. You can have the cheap little mask, and then the lady had a fucking like full out Scorpion Sub-Zero mask. Like, where did you get that from? Like, are they selling that shit at the gas stations? Are they selling, you know what I mean? Like, yo, there's a lot that goes on this medical shit. I don't want to talk about it too much, but like, some shit. I might be tripping though. But y'all let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next episode. RAH TV, RAH Gaming, RAH the Rapper, whatever you know me as. We taking over 2020. Gang, gang. We out.
Ride with the chrome, be all alone. Out of this world, this spaceship my home. Feel like a king, the city, the throne. Got a red bone, she jam every song. Got me a clingy bit all on my phone. Holding me long, I need to fade it. Let me know when you're ready. I forgot your name, but I think it was Becky. Don't need disrespect, but I don't need your sex. I just want the neck, then I'm back to the check. Every day Friday.